I'm not going down without a fight. I only carried 4 passengers that night. I swear. So there were only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them the standard 4 pence fare. Is that right? It's impossible to make that last run of the day pay. I was so cold, it was all I could do to stop myself passing out. I'm getting chilblains just listening to you. It was terrible, so I wanted to get myself a pat on the back for even keeping the bus running. Doesn't a dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny per passenger? You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night, then we would have had another suspect. Well, I, for one, was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir. And I just told you that I did. A flat fare of 5 pence across the board. It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the phantom killer you desperately needed. It's gone, dead and buried. I'd have been happy if it had ever existed in the first place. He filled us on the fair, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It is all too much. This blood-curdling sight? You mean the murder, I presume? Yes, sir! A loathsome sight. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man the moment his life is taken. Oh, well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment the gent was stabbed. Good gracious, really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it. But Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. I heard the banker gent next to me take a sharp intake of breath, you see. That is when I looked through the glass. That is when I saw that horrible blade poking out from his belly, all covered in blood. Oh yeah, we didn't examine the blade, did we? And the ledger too. Let's examine the blade first. Sorry, I'll be back for after this. That part is the sheath, isn't it? Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, sorry. Yes, I just don't really like blades. Oh. Those do not seem like the words of a man with a large katana slung from his waist. That's not a blade, that's Kazuma's soul. Anyway, there's no sense in delaying it. Let's see what the blade looks like. Oh. That looks like a lot of blood. It surely is blood. The victim's. An Englishman's blood looks a lot like a Japanese man's blood. Did you think it wouldn't? Sorry, it's just that we've only just arrived here in Great Britain. I'm finding it a little hard to adjust. Yes, I do understand. course you do. We both arrived in the same boat, after all. Okay, and there's the M. An ornate letter M. Undeniably Mr. Magnus McGilded's initial. And it is beautifully gilded too. It must be very valuable, I should think. Ah! What is it? Look at this M. If you turn it upside down, it becomes a W. This could change everything. A W. Yes, this is one of those, turnabout cases. I'm sure of it. I'm afraid I don't know it all. But what I am sure of is that this is an M. Oh, well, that idea was quickly squashed. No. I think you're onto something here, Naruhodo. Which name ends with W? Not any one of these. Not any of the witnesses. Alright, let's examine the ledger. Anything behind? No? Okay. This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside? Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder. I assure you, we will not find Mr. Sholmes' name inside. Well, let's see what we find. It's gonna be on the first page, isn't he? Oh. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness! What is it? Look at this! Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Bruce Fairplay! The witness testifying at this very moment! Oh, yes, of course, the banker! Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It is possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information. Yeah, there we go. So now he has a reason to put him in jail, where he can't touch him. Okay. So both pages... Okay, so... I was kind of hoping we see Mr. Sholmes here, but... maybe next time. Alright, let's continue. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. So you saw the defendant, Mr. McGilded, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who was sitting next to him. That is what I said, isn't it? You alright? He always looks shifty. It was bothering me before, this was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only the two of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a fifth passenger, but as yet, zero evidence. Then what are we wasting all this time for, eh? It is black and white. The man's guilty. Right. Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. I wish I could work out what it was.
Oh, yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so. Yes.
Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you?
Oh, yes, yes, that's right.
You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip.
I suppose I might have, yes. Put the cart before the horse, maybe.
What's this?
Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats on the roof deck.
Oh, I expect that was me, sir.
Then when I turned around, yes, I saw through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor, and the knife was sticking up out of his midriff. That's right, yes, the fellow holding the handle was the famous man. Yes.
So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. Well, if you put
I really thought that I did, but when I go over it again in my head, no. I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I?
Excuse me, do you have something to say?
Excuse me.
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay?
Now you listen to me.
I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? Hey, you know, what can I say? Some days are like that. Well, I suppose some days are like that. Sooner or later, you'll see something you wish you hadn't, if you're always peeping through a skylight on the top of the omnibus.
Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it as clear as a Boulevard day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you.
Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw.
I can do that, all right. I will tell you just how grim it was.
Oh, those... So I guess that was the right answer, the right thing to do. Okay.
Do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after that butcher stabbed the man?
Blood-soaked?
Ahem, well, perhaps soaked is laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there were definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it.
And you saw that from the roof? Through the skylight?
Well, the skylight's reasonably large, so I had a pretty good view. And there was a lamp inside the carriage as well, so I'm quite sure of what I saw.
Miss Banger's latest statement. I feel sure there's something not quite right about it. When you feel something doesn't add up, Mr. Naruhodo, that is when you should have a good look through the court record. Not long ago, this trial very nearly came to an end. Somehow we've managed to keep our chances alive here. I can't waste this cross-examination. I have to use it to bring some new facts to light. If you're not careful when you press these state witnesses... The danger is that the jury will end up believing something unhelpful, as they did before. Maybe, but we can't let the fear of that happening stop us from uncovering important new information. Yes, you are so right. I need to pay careful attention here. I don't want to miss even a flicker of a reaction among these witnesses. Remember, if you happen to spot one of the witnesses reacting in a strange way, do not hesitate to pursue them as to the reason. Alright, so I guess we're gonna press the last statement. Something about the glove is wrong. Blood-soaked hands, plural, but there was only one blood-soaked hand. Blood-soaked hands. Well, I admit that soap might be laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But, as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. But no, that can't be right. Oh God, what was her voice again? So you're the liar? No. Yes. So you're the liar here, then? That's right. You're quite clear about it. You said it was both hands. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth? Objection. It was a simple mistake. You can't justify this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands. It was only one. But the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused. Yeah, after he died. No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands. Which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Why, I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate? Prevaricate? He's claiming to have no reason to lie. But is that really the case? Mr. Naruhodo, if we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, it could turn the tide in this trial completely. Something to show this man has a compelling reason to lie in his testimony. Yeah, I have evidence. My lord? Yes, counsel? The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Very well. I hereby call on the defense to present its defense. Evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court. This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims, crippled by the accused's extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay.
What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused?
No, well, it's barely where they're being called debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say?
Well, what of it?
Let's suppose Mr. McGill were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case?
These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist.
Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw? In a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant?
Order! Order! Mr. Bruce Fairplay!
Yes, my lord.
Let me ask you again, and be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you, or did you not, see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim?
Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did. Overstate the truth a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on Mr. McGill's hands. Both of them.
Objection.
And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained.
So you keep saying.
I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir?
Go ahead, Mr. First.
Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself, as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think... yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one.
What?
What?
It would appear that we are going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear?
Yeah.
Mr. Naruhodo,
This is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Yes, I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. Let's hope so. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transcribed, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them.
I didn't actually see anything myself. No, not until I heard that scream.
Anyway, the fact remains, there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all, or we all would have been seen. Or we all would have seen. Oh, okay. Well, lo and behold. In truth of fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated. I apologize, my lord, but honestly,
There was no one else inside that carriage. The man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it.
that's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witness's accounts. In other words, there is no substantial, no significant change in the facts of the case. Very well. Your cross-examination, please, counsel. Yes, my lord. Alright, well, I think I already know what to object on. But I'll do the cross-examination anyway. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. No, the evidence tells us otherwise. We have the gloves of the defendant that the defendant was wearing on the night in question in the court record. I am well aware of that, sir, but nevertheless, I know what I saw, and I stand by it. The man had blood on both his hands. He's defiant, even in the face of hard evidence. He's steadfastly refusing to admit that he might be mistaken about what he saw, but why? Your reasoning is dire. One hand or two, the salient point remains unchanged. Minutes after the grim case, the victim's blood dripped guiltily from the accused fingers. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. Don't try to downplay this. Whether or not you saw the exact moment of the crime is a matter of fundamental importance, as well as you know. But, for crying out loud, we all know that no one else could possibly have done it. I was just trying to save us all some time. You have a loan of 20 guineas outstanding with the defendant, do you not? Had you hoped to release yourself from that financial burden by ensuring the defendant was found guilty? That's not entirely not what I was hoping for. I just lost a little guinea or 10 when I backed the wrong horse in the derby, that's all. I was going to win it all back. There's a fixture this weekend, that's a sure thing. A little guinea or 10. I'm a banker. No one bats an eye if I borrow a little spending money for the weekend. I think you may have revealed rather more about your character than you bargained for, sir. This witness's scruples are not on trial here. Proceed to the next witness. Is that really how it's supposed to work? I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them. You definitely saw that too? Blood on both hands? Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. Only one of Mr. McGilda's gloves has any signs of blood on it. That is right. The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, when I looked down and saw Mr. McGildet sitting beside the other fellow, I don't believe he was wearing any gloves, sir.
He wasn't wearing those gloves?
That's correct, sir. And I saw the blood on both his bare hands quite clearly.
It's true that the dark-colored stain on the dark leather gloves wouldn't have been easy to see.
I should point out that the police officer who apprehended the accused on the night in question reported that there was no trace of blood on Mr. McGildet's gloved hands.
There wasn't blood on his hands. This is puzzling indeed.
This must be significant somehow. I'm sure of it.
I didn't actually see anything myself, no. Not until I heard that scream.
You didn't see anything?
Oh, yes, sir. That is to say, no, sir, I didn't. Very sorry about what I said before, sir. Very sorry, yes. It was very wrong of me to make up stories and say I saw him stab the man. Wouldn't you agree, sir?
I know what you're insinuating, but I certainly wasn't making up stories. Still, to say you saw nothing isn't right either, is it?
No, sir. I saw nothing at all.
Mr. Beppo, you were driving your horses. At the very least, you must have enjoyed a good view of London's streets now. Oh, please, you didn't even see that?
It was so cold that night, you see. It was all I could do to keep from passing out, sir. Yes, my head was fairly frozen solid. Sorry to say, sir.
It would seem prudent to avoid travel on the last omnibus service of London's cold winter nights.
Hey, Peppo!
Anyway, the fact remains. There can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all would have seen. And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus. That's right. It was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember I was shivering. It was so bitter.
Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place.
Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh? Why is that? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door.
It was locked from the inside?
That's right. And it's a public bus service, for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below. Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down. I was glaring, long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal, I would say. Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside the cabin through the skylight? No. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight in the floor of the upper deck. Is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you.
What?
By golly, really? Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure, but the possibility cannot be denied. That at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
Enough hypothetical meandering, my Japanese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here, in the flesh.
Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. You will identify the area on this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. What exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting that this potential extra passenger could have been situated? Oh, right about here. Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other, which means the visible part of the cabin which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight is as I've drawn here.
Ah.
That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one on which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it.
Ah!
Objection!
Gotcha. Oh. It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you are able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. Can you, Mr. Naruhodo? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? Maybe it was Mr. W. I understand, my lord. The defense would like to put forward a name. You are a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learned. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from the view was... Uh-oh. Okay. No one here with a W, though. I guess I was wrong.
Take that!
Yes, concealed in the blind spot of the cabin that night was none other than this unexpected passenger. Whatever so-called logic you use to arrive at that conclusion, it matters not, because your answer has made one thing abundantly clear. The real blind spot is inside your head, and it would appear to be unusually large. Oh, you could have just said that's not right. Mr. Naruhodo, our task here is to defend Mr. McGilded. And we are working on the assumption that he is innocent of this crime. Yes, of course. Why? That must mean, then, that there was someone else inside the omnibus with Mr. McGilded, the true culprit. That's right, exactly what I've been... Oh! Of course, so the two people sitting inside the cabin that the witnesses saw through the skylight that night, they were the victim and the real culprit. It does seem as though we've all been making a false assumption. The witnesses weren't looking at Mr. McGilded at all, meaning he has to have been sitting somewhere else.
Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat.
This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting for. This could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus that was obscured from the view was...
Take that!
The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witnesses on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded?
What are you talking about, counsel? That is the name of the defendant.
Objection!
Ha! If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hollow chalice, do forgive the discourtesy.
Lord Van Six.
People talk of those tiny island nations in the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own, but I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It is the very premise on which this case is built. Oh, I'm saying it's wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way.
What inconsistency, counsel?
The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claimed that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to them.
Objection!
To the victim. Yet we know the truth to be us otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains. The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance.
Yes, their testimony remains unchanged.
Exactly. They both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit.
Extraordinary. Order, order. What exactly are you postulating?
Objection!
The defense's postulation is just that. Nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused. But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. The tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though. Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir.
And what particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First?
I'm afraid I don't remember.
You call yourself a hatter? The style of the hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin.
How can he be sure?
Because if there had been, the accused Mr. McGilded would have undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Unless, that is, you're proposing an even more preposterous explanation? That the accused failed even to notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled?
He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGildy would have been unaware of it.
Order! There is clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused Mr. McGildy to the stand.
Well, what say you, counsel?
The prosecution objects, my lord.
On what grounds?
As a suspect, he will have already made a full statement to police.
But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely?
Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out the man has been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act.
Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord, should we ask Mr. McGildy to testify? Or not? No, that's alright.
I can't get the words out.
I understand, Mr. Naruhodo. The idea that Mr. McGildy may be hiding something must be playing on your mind. The truth could be far more disturbing than we realized. But that's all the more reason why there's only one course of action here. To believe in my client. That's what Kazuma taught me. Whenever I'm not sure what to do, I feel like I can hear him guiding me. Then that is what we must do. Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGildy to the stand.
In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury.
Fuck.
I need a little time to consider this.
If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGildy has to say. Get the man out of here, I say. Get the man out here, I say. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony.
When something needs doing, get it done. That's how we run things at the guild.
Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say, oh yes, that would be lovely.
Yes, the jury says man must be heard.
Very well, the court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once. We're not going to take a break? Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear.
Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day?
To be sure I have, my lord.
There are now two matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the in the omnibus cabin, as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police?
Begad, no. It's not in my nature to hide anything at all.
Just answer the question, please.
The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell you all, or keep me mouth shut?
Tell us what, Mr. McGilded.
The fine fellow representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage on night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger.
It's true.
Aye, and 'twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened.
You. What? No, Magnus McGilded. That convenient excuse can't save you now.
I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Von Sakes. I'm sure you'd be wanting to know why I said nothing when we was taking the police. Oh, I did be having a very good reason, I assure you.
Which was?
Well, the little trial was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and not in any way involved, you see.
But
If the police had known the way one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have all earned his courtroom, just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord.
And who was this young child of whom you speak?
That, I don't know.
You don't know?
Aye, well, the white ting just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since.
Objection!
we have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witnesses' statements to be disregarded by the court.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings.
What?
Smoke! Fire! There's a fire! Look, there's someone trying to get away. It's no use. I can't see the smoke.
What is going on here? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face.
Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody. Clear the courtroom.
What the? We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff, amidst scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. Wow, to be continued.
To be continued, dear Will.